In nature, creatures mark scents to stake out territory, invisible traces that say to others, "I was here." That's nature's brand of emotional imprinting, and we humans do it as well. But rather than scent, guess what we leave behind? We leave emotions. Every intense emotional response you induce in a woman's presence imprints her memory the very same way. It says to her unconscious, "He was here." And here's the wild part. After you've imprinted her emotionally, even if you vanish, your presence won't. You reside rent-free in her brain because her nervous system will recall you. So, if you have ever wondered why some men just erase themselves from her memory right as soon as they leave, and others remain in her head for decades, well, then this video is about to be an absolute eye-opener for you. Because today I'm going to deconstruct the secret psychology of emotional imprinting, right? How it functions, why it's so strong, and how to use it to make real lasting connection when it comes to women. You're welcome. I'll be right back. Jessica, oh here. Welcome to the channel. So, here's what we're going to cover. I'll break down what emotional imprinting actually is, why it's the real engine of attraction, how to create it in the right way, mistakes that kill emotional imprinting, as well as signs that show that you've successfully imprinted. You ready? Let's jump in. So, what is emotional imprinting? What actually is emotional imprinting? So, emotional imprinting is when you build a deep emotional imprint in a woman's mind. It's when her nervous system begins to connect you with strong emotions. Emotions such as pleasure, excitement, calmness, curiosity, even frustration. The idea is to build real experiences that stimulate her emotionally. The female brain is very intriguingly wired. While men store attraction rationally, she's beautiful, she's kind, she's loyal. Women store attraction emotionally. Her memory system is connected to her feelings. And that's why she might not remember the words you said, but she'll remember the tone of your voice, the way you looked at her, and how she felt when you said those words, or perhaps even when you walked away. Here's the thing. Most men think attraction is a checklist. Nice guy, stable job, good communication, done, right? But those things don't move a woman emotionally. They make her respect you, but not wish you. Real desire occurs when you get her to stir something up inside her that she can't quite put her finger on. It's when her rational brain seeks to move forward, but her emotional brain pulls her back. That's emotional imprinting. It's the silent string that gets her to think about you when she's by herself or compare every other man to you. Let's put it this way. When you encounter a woman who says, "I don't know why, but there's just something about you," what she really is talking about is emotional imprinting. It is something about your presence, your energy, your voice, your unpredictability, eliciting emotions, right? The emotion is what is remembered. When you get this, you know that attraction has nothing to do with being the perfect guy. It is being the guy she can feel. Consider it. If every conversation she has with you is alive, unexpected, exciting, emotionally charged, her brain begins associating you with that feeling of aliveness, right? Even when you're not there, her body will recall it. That's the imprint. You can make positive imprints, connection, comfort, arousal, or negative ones such as stress, confusion, insecurity. And whatever one you make, her subconscious will pursue more of it. That's why, for example, toxic relationships are so addictive because intense emotion, even if painful, lays deep roots. Why it matters imprinting is important in relationships. So, many men think that once a woman says yes to dating, the hard part is finished. They cease to guide emotionally. They cease to make her feel, and all that sort of thing. But emotional attachment isn't something you establish and never need to maintain. It's something you must keep feeding or she'll begin to withdraw. A woman's heart does not remain where she is treated best. It remains where she feels most. You see, that sensation may be love, excitement, safety, curiosity, even passion. But if she doesn't feel anything, then her eyes will roam and she will wander. And that's why you can be a good man, faithful, reliable, respectful, a provider, and still lose her. Because although she values you, she doesn't feel you anymore. Bear in mind, women don't yearn for logic. We yearn for emotional experience. Right? We fall for how you can make us feel about ourselves when we're with you. If she feels more beautiful, more alive, more understood around you, that's the emotional mark that holds her on. When you arrive each time, you get to choose. Do I make her think or do I make her feel? If you can emotionally stir her, she'll recall you long after she's forgotten what you did. So, when she says, "There's something about you," what she really means is, "You've imprinted me." That's how deep connection starts. The stages of emotional imprinting. So the good news is emotional imprinting is something that follows a consistent pattern, correct? And once you are aware of these phases, you can actually observe when a woman is beginning to fall emotionally for you. There are 3 primary phases: curiosity, emotional resonance, and anchoring. Each phase builds upon the previous one. And if you work your way through them with awareness, you'll form that connection that's almost undesirable for her to forget. Let me walk you through them. Stage 1, curiosity. It speaks for itself. This is where essentially it all starts. When she picks up on the fact that there's something different about you. Not your appearance, not your cash, your vitality. Most men present as either too predictable or too performative, correct? You are either trying too hard to make an impression or they're too emotionally flat to be interesting. Curiosity is potent because it triggers her imagination. And once her mind begins imagining, she begins emotional investing. Perhaps it's the way you maintain eye contact just for a second longer than normal. Perhaps it's the way you don't jump to fill silences. Or perhaps it's the way you smile as if you know something she doesn't know. These small behaviors produce curiosity, and curiosity leads to emotional tension, which her brain translates to attraction. Curiosity sows the first seed of emotional connection. Remember that. Stage 2 is emotional resonance. Now, stage 2, the relationship begins to resonate. This is where she starts to feel emotionally seen. Now, most men sabotage this stage because they don't know how to listen, right? They either shoot down her feelings, like, "Oh, you're overreacting," or attempt to repair them. "Well, here's what you ought to do." But when you can tune in, like really grasp the emotion behind the words she's speaking, you become her safe space in a hurry. When you say things like, "Oh, that sounds tough. What made you feel that way?" Or, "I get why that would upset you." You're not agreeing, you're validating. And validation says to her, "This man gets me." And once that occurs, her walls will fall. She'll begin opening up, telling more, and feeling emotionally comfortable. And here's the difference between emotionally intelligent men and everyone else. You don't merely match her emotions, you lead them. You bring calm when she is anxious. You bring lightness when she is heavy. You bring depth when she is surface level. That's emotional leadership, and women are wired to connect with men who can lead emotionally. Stage 3, anchoring. So this is the point where everything clicks in. Anchoring occurs when the feelings she develops around you become attached to you. Think about it in this way. When she laughs involuntarily at one of your playful moments, her mind links that happiness to you. When she feels relaxed and calm in your company, her body remembers that security with you. When she feels horny after a deep, emotionally charged conversation, that passion will become attached to you. The magic is her mind doesn't detach those feelings from the origin. So even when you're absent, guess what? She replays those feelings in her mind. That's why at times she'll suddenly think of you during the day, or she'll be listening to a song and suddenly miss you. That's the emotional anchor. It's already established. And once that anchor is established, logic can't reverse it. I mean, she may say to herself, "I need to move on," right? But her body won't have it because emotional imprinting occurs below the level of conscious awareness. It's a felt memory. How to create emotional imprints. How to create emotional imprints ethically. Now, since emotional imprinting does not equate with playing psychological games or manipulating her emotions, I must now instruct you on how to actually create it. This involves knowing how to connect deeply, confidently, and authentically so that she feels something she doesn't feel with another man. Let me disassemble the 5 core principles that enable you to make emotional imprints the correct way. First one is to be present. Presence is your least appreciated superpower. When you're with her, be with her. You not half on your phone, half distracted, not half thinking about something else, right? Because women sense when you're not present. Women usually know when your energy is dispersed, when your attention is divided, when your focus is performative. But when you're being grounded, when your eye contact is steady, your voice is slower, you're breathing deeper, she'll relax. Why? Because presence doesn't impress her, it grounds her. Number 2, tell stories that principle 2, display emotion. Now, a lot of men will tell stories in order to impress, right? Talking about their success, money, status, stuff that appeals to logic. But emotionally intelligent men learn to tell stories in order to connect. They share moments that display vulnerability, growth, or passion. Things that display their humanity. I'll illustrate with an example. Rather than, I used to work hard in order to achieve where I am. You could say, there was a time that I almost quit because I didn't feel like I had what it takes. But what I learned is that staying grounded in chaos is what sets winners apart. Now, that anecdote does more than convey your values. When you open up without oversharing or trauma dumping, you give her something genuine to relate to. Number 3, employ tension and release. Principle 3, contrast, is what human connection lives on. When you create tension, you ignite emotional energy. When you let it go, you build relief. And these two feelings together do what? They create something called addiction. So how do you employ this? You flirt teasingly, then compliment honestly. You disagree with her opinion, then kindle understanding. You flirt with assertiveness and then ease back with confident calm. That back and forth emotional rhythm replicates how attraction feels within her body. It's dynamic, spontaneous, and unforgettable. Remember, predictability kills emotion. Emotional variation, however, will keep her captivated because the brain hungers for contrast. All right, number 4, mirror her. Principle 4, emotional energy, and then take it in a direction. What I'm going to teach you is emotional intelligence in action. When she's excited, match your energy, not to mimic, but to synchronize, right? When she's vulnerable, you slow your tone, match her softness, establish safety. Then, once she feels understood, direct the energy upward. All right? You lift her mood, change the tone, get her to feel lighter. This easy action, mirroring and then leading, gets her to think of you as emotional regulation. She makes you her emotional anchor point. And every time she's upset, her unconscious will remember. Well, when I was around him, I felt better. That's emotional imprinting in action. Number 5, provide principle 5, emotional variety. Now, if you want her to never forget you, give her emotional diversity. Most guys run in one gear. They're either always serious, always funny, or always relaxed. But the guy who can shift gears, who can make her laugh, challenge her assumptions, smooth her nerves, trigger her imagination, is a whole spectrum experience. And women don't become addicted to one feeling. They become addicted to the guy who does many different things to them along the way of life. So be fun, but also be considerate. Be passionate, but also grounded. Be unpredictable, yet consistent, because each emotional shade provides a new brush stroke to the picture that she builds of you in her mind. Now, the key word that I used at the start of this specific pointer was ethically, right? You're not attempting to make her a dependent on you. You're making her feel alive in your presence. When you do this genuinely, she bonds with your essence and not your effort. Now, I didn't want this video to be too long, right? But there's so much more that I want you to get from this. So, guess what I did? I put together a free downloadable emotional imprinting guide that will deconstruct the biggest mistakes men make that kill emotional imprinting and the very signs that indicate that you've imprinted a woman successfully. All right, now the PDF is brief. It's potent and meant to help you recognize exactly where you're losing emotional effect and how to correct it quick. It's on me, and you can download your copy immediately using the link in the description below. This will help you big time. Here's what I want you to remember from everything I've discussed in this video. If you can make a woman feel deeply, you'll always stand out from men who just make her think temporarily, right? You can have the looks, you can have the cash, you can even have the flawless words to speak, but none of that will ever matter if she doesn't feel you, right? And that is why you'll never need to pursue a woman once you get this, because she'll be pursuing the feeling that only you can provide. Now, if this video made you get the wake-up call that you didn't realize that you needed, do me 2 things. First, press that like button so YouTube understands that you're one of the few guys who really get it. And second, you omit the word imprinted in the comments so I know that you're committed to learning this level of attraction. Remember to download that free PDF. My name's Sadia Khan. I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.